to the 42nd episode in our AI and You podcast series. Today is Tuesday, February 23rd, 2021, and I'm your host, Vicar Saidi. I'm a computer scientist and engineer, a lecturer, and a consultant. I'm also the author of several books. My most recent book is about artificial intelligence and is titled The Genome Affair. The Genome Affair is a speculative work. It examines what the world might be like if some of the more extraordinary capabilities forecast to be realized in AI over the next 20 to 30 years were actually realized today. Given the growing list of frightening existential threats humankind now faces, the book pays particular attention to the impact AI is expected to have on world affairs. The book is available in ebook format for those who prefer to read on a digital device, but it's also available in a high-quality paperback edition. The Genome Affair is available on Amazon, so I hope you'll take the time to read it and to leave a review. Amazon book reviews are very helpful for writers. I'm very interested in how science and technology influence world affairs and the big questions facing humankind, studying at the confluence of the great disciplines of human history, political science and thought, international affairs, science and technology, offers a deep understanding and pedagogically important lessons of how advances in human endeavor have influenced and impacted civilization. I'm available to give talks on artificial intelligence and its related technologies, and on the impact AI is expected to have, or is already having, on our world. If you'd like to get in touch with me to arrange a web-based event or consulting meeting with your company or organization, you can find my contact info in the podcast notes below. Please make sure to subscribe to my channel, like this video, and share it with others if you find the content valuable. Thank you. And now, on to today's podcast. In our last podcast, episode 41, I spoke about what AI will mean for the future of work. In today's podcast, episode 42, I'll talk about what AI and other Fourth Industrial Revolution technologies might mean for the future of democracy. Let's get started. It's a strange time in American history. On one hand, America's scientific and technical competency and prowess have reached staggering heights, while on the other hand, our governance has reached previously unimaginable lows in its ability to effectively respond to crises. It's been just over a year since the outbreak of the COVID-19 coronavirus in China's Wuhan province, and already a number of American and European companies, including Johnson & Johnson Janssen, Moderna, Novavax, Oxford AstraZeneca, and Pfizer BioNTech, have successfully developed and trialed highly effective and safe vaccines. The data now being reported from around the world and published in peer-reviewed academic journals indicates that Pfizer's BioNTech's mRNA vaccine is showing efficacy of nearly 90% after just a single dose, and that it is also nearly as effective in containing transmissibility. The Western scientific community has done nothing less than a brilliant job in developing this and so many other vaccines that will benefit humankind by saving countless lives. Normally, it can take 10 or more years to develop safe and effective vaccines, but in the span of under 1 year, we now have at least 5 vaccines through phase 3 in the clinical trial process. It's a truly admirable and unprecedented performance. As of today, the pandemic continues to rage around the world, and we now have 111 million cases with 2.5 million deaths, with 500,000 of those deaths occurring in the United States alone. But in the midst of this chaos and tragedy, the entire planet's economy has effectively been running on American software, systems, and technology, and has done so without so much as a hiccup. Thousands of conference calls now take place daily on video platforms provided by companies including Cisco WebEx, Microsoft Teams, and Zoom, effectively bringing together participants from around the world so they can collaborate and solve problems in the digital domain. At the same time, millions of consumers around the world are able to order books, hand sanitizer, face masks, groceries, and virtually any other product they need or want from online e-commerce platforms like Amazon. And they are able to keep in touch with family, friends, and professional colleagues on social media platforms from Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, and WhatsApp. In the evening, they can relax and watch endless hours of streaming videos on Amazon Prime, Hulu, and Netflix. Just last week, guided by a diverse group of brilliant male and female scientists and technologists, we witnessed the surreal footage from NASA's Jet Propulsion Laboratories of the Perseverance rover's effortless landing on the surface of Mars. It was understandably hard not to feel a sense of pride in being an American as we watch that truly extraordinary moment unfold on our cell phones and laptops. At the same time, though, given the openness of our democratic society and the freedom of speech enshrined in the First Amendment to our Constitution, our free and independent press, our Fourth Estate, also covered the extraordinary failings of the American government and that of other leading Western democratic nations as they capitulated in dramatic fashion to test, trace, quarantine, and vaccinate their societies. It has been a truly humbling display and a realization of how poor our governance has really become in the world's leading democracies, particularly in the US, the UK, and the EU. After nearly 40 years of effort by leading politicians in the US and the UK to delegitimize government in the eyes of its citizens, and then subsequently to defund so many critical government agencies and functions, the deconstruction of the administrative state, as Steve Bannon put it, we now find ourselves turning to these very same agencies and institutions to provide leadership and service in a time of grave global crisis. Before the onset of the pandemic in early 2020, many would have expected the United States to lead the world in rapidly and effectively containing the pandemic within its own borders, using its expertise in public health and related scientific and technological innovations for tracking and tracing, while simultaneously providing leadership to the rest of the world in exactly how to contain the virus. All public health authorities in leading democratic nations in the West understand that America and other leading Western European nations must use their best-in-class capabilities and take the lead in formulating a plan to inoculate the rest of the world, since, unless the entire world population is vaccinated, the virus is likely to continue to mutate into new, evasive, and perhaps even more potent variants. Then we have the very real risk that vaccines and vaccinated people will once again be at risk and the social fabric will continue to fray as the socioeconomic and political fallout is further exacerbated. As a result of these catastrophic failures in public health administration and the resulting deaths and economic damage, the evidence is clear. People around the world are feeling increasingly gloomy in their outlook for democracy. and its ability to retain its role as the best-in-class form of governance for the future. An unintended and worrisome consequence of this emerging reality is that we are inadvertently strengthening the hand of right-wing authoritarian regimes. For quite some time, many thought leaders in political science have believed that working-class people in the West have been turning away from center-left social democratic parties and towards far-right authoritarian populists in America and Europe because these workers feel they've been left behind after more than 30 years of globalization. Workers feel that center-left parties who were supposed to represent their interests have instead negotiated trade deals that serve the interests of financial and industrial elites, and that workers like them never had a seat at the table as these trade deals were consummated. Brexit in the UK, the Gilets jaunes or Yellow Vest movement in France, and the Trump MAGA phenomenon in America are each an important example of such working-class revolts against globalization. The proliferation of conspiracy theories and straw-man arguments, the rejection of facts and guidance from public health officials, and the formation of unsavory movements in dark corners of the internet are all consequences of this profound loss of faith in democracy and trust in government. At the same time, though, globalization doesn't explain the rise of far-right authoritarian populism in countries and regions as diverse as India, Brazil, Eastern Europe, or Turkey, where working-class people have largely been the significant beneficiaries of globalization. Perhaps then, a key reason that so many citizens around the world have turned their back on democracy is because the world has become far too complicated, and too many citizens just don't understand the issues. In such a scenario, they'd rather have a strongman who promises to make everything okay and tells them not to worry. It's almost always a man, says he will take care of everything for the people, and they needn't bother to understand these complex matters. It's a very appealing message. Citizens only need to send money when asked, and to rise up in revolt when called upon. Other than these modest requirements, they needn't worry themselves over the complexities of our modern world. Unfortunately, the people are right in their reticence towards the complexity of the modern world. Science and technology are playing an increasingly important role in society and in the socioeconomic future of everyone, and too many people don't know what to make of it all. The problem is greatly exacerbated by the fact that democracy requires the electorate to be informed and capable of thinking critically about the issues of the day. But in America, we've defunded education to such a degree that in the last election cycle, 75% of the electorate could not name the 3 branches of government, let alone articulate the implications of Fourth Industrial Revolution sciences and technologies, including artificial intelligence, biotechnology, computing, and data science. The people no longer understand the basic function of government, let alone the implications of state surveillance or surveillance capitalism upon their lives. If we visit societies in Northern Europe, we find that they also have about the same percentage of foreign-born citizens, somewhere between 15 and 20% in their countries, and they also face similar challenges posed by unmitigated globalization. But these societies are much more educated, so they're able to think critically about the issues of the day. They do have right-wing authoritarian tendencies in their societies to contend with, but the competency and technocratic leadership within their government results in a much greater level of trust for authorities in their societies. Their governments have performed much better than the US and UK in managing societal change during the decades since the onset of globalization. They have social safety nets that cushion the blow of the changing environment in the workplace, and they have worked to retrain workers and provide healthcare and education across the society. As a result, they are not facing the grave challenges to their democratic way of life as that seen in the US and the UK. Unfortunately, as we go forward, technologies such as artificial intelligence will be excellent tools for authoritarian regimes to strengthen their grip on power through AI-enabled state surveillance and through biotechnology. This means the challenges faced by the KGB in the Soviet Union and the East German Stasi during the Cold War in the 20th century will not be an issue for modern-day authoritarian regimes. So if we are determined to preserve our democratic way of life as enshrined in our Constitution and Bill of Rights, the only way to mitigate the risk of authoritarianism in the United States and in the rest of the developed world will be through a rapid and profound rededication to investment in education for all our citizens. The ideological challenge posed by the Soviet Union in the middle of the last century pushed the West to rise to the challenge. Perhaps the emerging Cold War with China will have a similar effect. Let us hope. Thank you for spending some time with me. I'm trying to follow the TED Talk format, and so I'm keeping these podcasts under 20 minutes. Let me know what you think. I hope you'll find these insights into artificial intelligence helpful, and I hope you will read my new book, The Genome Affair. It's on Amazon. Until next time, then, this has been the AI and You podcast with author Vicar Saidi.